back to The Real Grind, guys. We're back at season 2 and we're super excited. We couldn't be more excited. Italo, do you know sometimes when you take a nap in the afternoon and actually you wake up, you don't know if you're the next day or that means it's a good nap. Have you ever happened to you?
It happens often. I take a lot of naps.
That's how it feels like. I'm kind of nervous and excited at the same time because we changed studios and now we just prepared something even more special for you, the audience. And we have more coffees, more guests. We have a lot more stuff and content to add value to you, our listeners. We want to thank for awesome 37 episodes that we did on the last year. And incoming, baby.
Incoming. I think we're going to pass that number this year. Let's see.
Did you gain more experience on the coffee?
I think I did. I got more experience. I made more connections and tried new coffee. So I'm excited. New methods. It's going to be a whole lot of coffee coming up.
And I know it's funny, like I heard a lot of feedback from people that have been part of the show that we changed their lives with the coffee. Like, man, I drink coffee totally different now. And today's guest, guess what? I am gonna actually challenge him because I know he likes a little sugar on his coffee. But let's get the season 2 started. Let's go.
Waking up to success. Now we getting it started. This is the real grind. Everything you've been wanting, building an empire, no question. Talking about real estate, investing, making the millions, no stopping. While we sip on gourmet coffee. The real grind. This is the real grind. Let's go.
This guest here is super special guy. I've been following him. Actually, we've done business with him and I'm a big fan of his work. He's the founder of Premier Law Group. He helps syndicators not to go to jail. And he also speaks in multiple stages with guys such as Robert Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, Brenda Turner, the real estate guys, and the author or the legal strategist for everyone. We want to welcome to the stage, Maurício Rauld. Let's go! Man. Welcome to season 2, man. This is special. You're gonna be the first one that's gonna break season 2 in.
I didn't know I had all this pressure. I thought I was just gonna come in, hang out with my buddy, and next thing I know, I'm in this amazing studio. I'm talking about the inaugural season 2. This is awesome.
That's awesome, man. I'm super happy to be here because I said I'm a fan of yours, man. I've been following you forever since when I started back in the days, you know, back with Brad. You come to our events and your content is all just spat on, man.
So I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Big fan, excited for you to be here and stay with us here at The Real Grind, man. And man, with no further ado, this is the part that it's all about you. We want to hear who are you, where you come from, your beginnings.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's start with that.
Let's do it. So I'm originally from Santiago, Chile. So I was born there. And then when I was about 2 years old, we left to live in England. So I lived in England for about 10 years on and off. You know, we went to England, came back to Chile for a little bit, back to England. So, and then, you know, came back to Chile. And then when I was 15, we decided to move here to the United States. So even at the age of 15, I'd already lived in 3 different countries. Now I've lived in 4 different countries.
My goodness.
Yeah. But anyway, so obviously went to school here, went to school up at UC Berkeley, and then, you know, became a lawyer. I went to law school. And luckily for me, I got the dream of working got a job at a great law firm. And
so was it always, or you like, I want to be a lawyer since I was a kid?
Honestly, it was like I didn't know what else to do.
It was like, it pays well, man.
It pays well. I didn't know what else to do. And
help
like
people
I said,
get out of trouble.
I got super lucky, got drafted or recruited to a really nice firm that did a lot of securities. But, you know, probably like a lot of people, I was not really happy there. You know, I just felt like there was something missing. I felt there was a little bit more. You know, you just, you know, you get into that rat race and that rut of getting up in the morning and showering and getting ready and driving to work, working all day, you know, coming home, you know, maybe working out, maybe not, going to bed. And as lawyers, you know, we keep track of every like 6 minutes of our lives, and there's a lot of weekends, and I just knew there was something better or something different. Mm-hmm. And luckily for me, as probably a lot of your listeners and watchers, is that, you know, I came across a little purple book, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh man, the magical book. If we get a dime, Italo, for every person that mentioned this book here, we would be rich right now.
I'm telling you, we should get some royalties every time we read it.
I know,
so,
dude. That's a fabulous book.
So I was actually at a birthday party in Miami, found the book, read it on the way back to LA, and obviously, you know, like everybody else, blew me away.
And it always happens on the plane too.
Right? And I almost didn't buy it. Like back then, I didn't like books with the word rich in them.
Yeah.
I was like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's something about a rich life. And I'm like, I don't really want to get it. But it was like a #1 New York bestseller. So I'm like, screw it, I'll get it.
Right.
And luckily I did. But it was more than that, because it wasn't just the fact that I read the book like so many of you guys have, but it's like literally 3 weeks after I read that book, I'm driving down the street in the streets of LA. and I hear a radio drop in that Robert Kiyosaki does. He's like, hey, this is Rich Dad. This is our author, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. You know, if you're interested in investing in real estate, check out the Real Estate Guys because they really know what they're talking about. And had I not read the book, that would have meant nothing to me. I would have heard the radio ad and I would have just kept on. But that got me introduced to sort of my next layer of my life, which is going to work for the Real Estate Guys, who obviously they're big real estate folks. And that got me out of the rat race of working for the law firm and then coming over and becoming general counsel for these guys.
What kind of law were you practicing before?
I was a litigator. So my job was to defend some of these big securities firms like the JP Morgans of the world, Merrill Lynch, American Express, whatever. But it was whenever they got sued, they would hire a firm. I was a defense attorney, and so we would do all the depositions and the interrogatories and the trials and the motions and all that kind of stuff. And it was fun. I spent a lot of time in courtrooms. I spent a lot of time in arbitrations because securities is a lot of arbitration work and some appellate work. So I got to practice in front of the federal judges, which is a completely different world.
Bad.
The difference between going into a state courthouse versus a federal courthouse is like, it's like going into this podcast and then going into a Zoom podcast.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. That's fun.
So that got me out of there. It was great. And so that's really where I cut my teeth on the syndication, because back then those guys were doing a ton of syndications, but old school, right? This is back in 2005.
Yeah.
So just to date myself a little bit, but like this was literally in-person meeting. There's no webinars or anything. This is literally 50, 60, 100 people in a room, printing out the docs, right, in physical paper with pens, people writing checks.
Are you serious?
I mean, seriously,
oh my
school,
goodness,
suit
man.
and tie, PowerPoint. I think back then he wasn't even doing PowerPoint. It was like those acetate
So
things.
in 2005, right a little bit before the crash, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, I got out of the law firm, went to work for these guys in 05, and then obviously the crash happened in about 08. So about 3 years before that, yeah.
And it's like, what a change, man. It's like, let me work with those crazy real estate folks now, man.
It was great, man, because I didn't have to keep track of my time. I was like, it wasn't a 9-to-5 job, but it wasn't this crazy, like keeping track of everything. Plus, the guys do a lot of field trips and they take investors down to different countries. Right. So like, I think my first weekend I was down in Cabo on a boat drinking champagne. I'm like, this is way better than sitting behind a desk, right?
And one of the things that I like about the real estate investing, man, the amount of people that just start small and they just grew exponential over time, and you get to be part of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, they had a decent brand when I joined them in 05, but obviously today they've got just a huge brand that they've associated with a lot of other big brands, and so their reach is much bigger.
No, I mean, just not the real estate guys, but I'm some people that invest in real estate. There's real estate people, right? Folks that start in real estate investing. Yes. You know, maybe you guys is funny because they're real estate guys.
Yeah, the real estate guys. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, especially even if you bought literally at the top of the market, back in 08, if your first property is 08 and you still had that property, I got to believe unless you're in some really random place, you're already ahead, even if you bought at the top. So real estate over time always generally goes up. Or at least inflates, as I like to call it. But so yeah, just a great wealth building vehicle. Probably the best, in my opinion, the best wealth building vehicle out there.
So do you invest I'm sure you invest in a lot.
100%.
Yeah, of course. It's like,
100%.
how can I not be part of this,
no,
right?
Especially when you represent so many, operators and stuff. I have that unique advantage of getting to know obviously all these operators really well, and I know who the good ones are, who the not so good ones are. I got a little bit of
especially nowadays, it's like the words on the street. But that's super cool, man. Talk a little bit about that syndication model. What does a syndication attorney do? So for the listeners that don't know what that is,
I keep people out of jail. We keep people out of jail, Neander.
No, because people don't believe it, right? This is your thing.
So what most people don't realize is whenever you're raising money from passive investors, you are in the business of selling securities, and so you are now underneath the umbrella of securities laws, right? And you're under the watchful eye of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. And so our job is to make sure that we're complying or helping our clients comply with all the regulations and the rules, and there's a lot of them, as you know, just making sure that we're navigating those complicated rules and what you can do, what you cannot do, making sure we're giving the investors the proper disclosures, making sure they're going into the investment with eyes wide open, they know all the risks, and as long as we do all that and we cross all our T's and dot our I's, we're going to be just fine. But a lot of people don't even know they're selling securities to begin with.
Right.
And so they don't even think about that, which honestly makes sense. I mean, if you're just buying a piece of like a single family home or a duplex with a couple of your friends, why is the SEC even involved? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. And so I get why that is the case, but unfortunately there's a ton of people out there that are practicing or selling securities without even knowing it. And not complying and violating the rules.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I like about your content, because you're always putting the content out, educating people what it is. Because I see a lot of other syndicators that it started out without a lot of knowledge and getting in trouble. That's a big deal. What's SEC, man? That's crazy stuff. Yeah. But before we get to that, man, get a little bit more content. I want to learn, how'd you get your business started? And we're gonna guess what time it is.
It's probably some coffee time or something.
It's coffee time, man. Let's go.
Maurício.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. What's up, Boa?
Let's go, man.
First episode of season 2. I'm excited, man. First coffee of this year on the show.
First coffee of the show, man. We've been having it, just I've been loving some of the coffee that we're having lately, like this new stuff. Now, that's the thing, Maurício. Every time now people see us, they give us coffee.
Nice.
We went to a convention the other day. People, hey man, I got something for you. They pack it out, look like a pack of drug or something.
Right.
It was coffee that they travel, so we became the coffee people.
Yeah.
Is this your own coffee, or do you guys get it?
We do have our own coffee, but
say.
this is not it though.
Okay.
We ran out because we have a very small farm and it's not enough. We actually developing this brand and we're not ready yet. But
love it.
And but this coffee though, I was in Brazil just now.
Yeah.
Got some surgery on my finger, so. Like he said, people know what we're doing, and they were like, hey, can you talk about our coffee, And our answer is always yes. Like, we always want to promote people that, especially from smaller farms, because coffees like this, there's so much work that goes behind it. It's like an art. Mm-hmm. And these 2 girls, we go way back from 2003. And these 2 sisters, Laura and Luisa, thank you for the coffee. They're called Beato Coffee. And they go kind of like your family. It's their great-grandfather and then the grandfather were into the whole coffee thing. And then they kind of were like, this is kind of on our DNA too, So they moved to Italy. They decided to do this whole study about coffee so they can actually explain the coffee culture better to other people. And 2020 came about and they found this women's group called Caffeine. And they're like, hey, this is it. We need to do coffee, So they started their smaller production, but they're small, but they're mighty. So they were very nice enough to send us this coffee. Beato is a homage to Father Victor, which is somebody
have a quick
that's
smell.
Very, very close and dear to their heart. So
squeeze the package.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But now,
Beato Cafe Brazil.
there you go. Let me give this to you.
All right,
So there's a couple
Raul.
of tricks in there
Okay.
as we drink this type of coffee.
Okay.
It's kind of like wine, right? So
Now we're talking my language.
Hey!
Now you're talking my language.
But this is very similar to wine.
Yeah.
It's very unique taste. When you try it, you'll be able to identify tones on it, just like wine. So
Cool.
try it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're gonna a big slurp, just like
do we do a little sniffy sniff first, or
yeah. And then you slurp on it, let it sit on your mouth a little bit. 1, 2, 3.
Very nice, very smooth.
But here's the kicker, y'all. He does sugar with his coffee. So tell me, how is that without sugar, though?
Yeah, I forgot. It's not like it's bitter or anything. It's like it's beautiful. You don't need any sugar here at all. Yeah,
So-
I know. I got here and I was like, hey, give me a coffee. I'm like, yeah, 2 sugars, please. No, this has no sugar. That's right.
it has a taste of like the pomegranate, dude.
Let's see the notes on this guy. So it has notes of honey. Yeah, there's honey, very light on the acidic side, creamy body, and intense sweetness, and it's a medium roast. I like it.
I kind of identified the pomegranate there, man. It's kind of a little bitter-ish
Yeah.
to a citrus. I really like it.
That's the beauty of this kind of coffee, Mauricio. Like, different people will notice different notes, all based on your
It's just like
sensorial
wine.
taste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like wine. Everybody can, has their own
Sensory
description.
memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Very
That's
good.
cool. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I love it.
You promise never put sugar again?
Well, hold on.
Well, this,
if you're drinking this kind
a
of stuff,
specialty coffee, right? But if you're drinking just the sort of the Keurig or maybe I shouldn't be even doing that.
No.
If you're drinking regular coffee,
But
it's
it's-
tough not to have sugar in it because it gets pretty bitter, right?
Yeah,
You gotta-
and it's easy to make it as well. You kind of drink it like to appreciate it, man. And then this has a lot more caffeine. When a coffee gets to a roaster level, there's dark roast. It's charcoal. All the nutrients, all the flavor, everything's gone.
Yeah.
And people are thinking they're getting more caffeine. It's actually you're getting less caffeine. This actually has a lot more caffeine this way.
Interesting.
and hence why you got to put sugar on it. But this is really cool. I definitely want to hear more of the story. But before I go, Next time you drink coffee without sugar, you can think of us now.
I love it. Oh,
This
wow, look at
this gift you can only drink without sugar.
If you put sugar on that cup, we did
The
this
coffee
mechanism.
would self-destroy.
Yeah, that mug would like shatter. Hey, awesome, man. I want to hear more of your story.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. If you need more coffee, you know how to find me. All right, thank y'all. I see ya.
Welcome to Empire Living Solutions. This is a brand new business that we come out of a solution for a problem that we had. We're being struggling with buying material and goods for our apartment renovations. After 5 properties, over 750 units, we have a lot of turns. So by buying directly and forming our own brand to buy directly overseas and going to manufacturers and testing products, and after all these years, we mastered and crafted these products, and now it's available to you, syndicator, operator, property management, or even if you do flips or developing new construction, anything, we have solutions for you to save on cost of material and have a one-stop shop so you can run your properties to the max performance. Maurício, man, that's great. So how did you decide to get your own business? You're doing your firm now.
Yeah.
With this. So talk us about what is your firm today and how'd you get started with that?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So I used to be a one-man show, right? So after I left the real estate guys, I started my own firm, kept the real estate guys as kind of my VIP clients. But for the first couple of years, man, you basically take on whatever puts food on the table, right? You're grinding really hard 7 days a week, or you're just doing it all, right? And I have actually an interesting thing happen to me is like I actually had a big medical scare about 6 years ago. Had a 30% chance of dying. I actually got septic. I had a surgery that went completely botched. Wow. And so that, I was literally out for about 6 months. And so revenues, when you're a single firm, solopreneur, you're a single point failure. When you don't work, there's no revenues. And so, our revenues went down to literally zero at the end of 2018. And, luckily I had a little bit of reserve. So it's a good lesson for everyone to have, there's a reason why they say you have, 6 months of reserves. And this is where it came in. So I was very, very fortunate that we didn't have really a huge financial hit, but obviously from a health perspective, I lost probably half the weight I am right now. And, but I just, when I came out of that, I said, look, I can't make that happen again. If I ever get hit by a bus or this happens again, I can't have this situation again, put my family in that position, 2 little kids. And so I made a decision then that's like, hey, look, I've got to go build a real business. I can't be a single point failure. I can't be a solopreneur. And so I set my sights up to actually build something that would be self-sustaining. Yeah. That if anything ever happened again in the future, it's like this, even if I got hit by a bus or whatever, that there'd be somebody to keep the business running, and I would just have to handle my health stuff. And it took me 6 years, but fortunate enough for me, I found an amazing partner that she became a partner about 3 or 4 years ago. And we've built a firm now where it's to that point where it doesn't need me to run. Hopefully they still want me, but if something were to happen like that again, absolutely, people have it covered. And so now we're about 9 or 10 people, still a pretty boutique firm, but it's a multi 7-figure business, and we really specialize helping real estate syndicators. That is our bread and butter. We'll do a little bit of entity formations and stuff like that, but really our core business is the compliance side. Yeah,
because you're passionate about that, right? This is the experience, and like we talked earlier, the passion about building that for syndicators that is growing their business and stuff. I think it's just fantastic, man.
Yeah, and I really have a passion for sort of teaching, as probably you can tell, because I do a lot of content. I'll do a lot of free Q&A. I do a lot of I like to give a lot. I come from the Gary Vaynerchuk school of thought. So I'm just give.
Really?
I love
That's
it.
awesome,
I had the pleasure of meeting Gary right before COVID. I went to his offices in 2000 and right before COVID, it's 2020. And so I love that, and it's worked. And so when you build a brand and you give and you're selfless and you're just trying to help people, and this goes for any business, not just legal, but as you add value to the community, whether it's social media or like you're doing here with podcasts and just educating folks, it just comes back to you in spades. And it's not why I do it. It's not like I'm doing it because of that, but it's just a byproduct of just giving to people without any expectation of them doing anything. If they want to hire us, great. If they don't, that's great too. But I just get a lot of satisfaction. When I'm done with those 1 hour sort of Q&A sessions, I just feel like I'm on cloud. I think I get more out of it than the people in there.
Absolutely. No, they say when you teach, you learn twice.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? And that's good that you say that. You invested yourself as well and your own education.
100%.
Not just business, but I see Tony Robbins
there.
there.
I'm a huge personal development guy. And so
that is great, man. This is actually, I really admire people that work on self-development because you just become a better person. And by having your cup full, you'll be able to help others, man, through your life.
Yep.
You know, that's a huge belief of mine.
I believe my philosophy is that, you know, whatever it is that you want in life, you just need to figure out what it is that you want. And then you got to ask yourself the big question, which is, who do I need to become in order to get or achieve whatever it is that I want to go achieve? Because 100%. You need to increase your skill, or what books do you need to read, or, you know, what podcasts do I need to listen to, you know, what skills do I need to develop, and having a clear outcome of where you want to go, and then figuring out what it is that you have to do to improve on yourself. Because at the end of the day, you know, you're only going to be as successful as your level of personal development.
100%. Well, Maurício, talk to me. I saw on one of your videos you talking about you know, when you're doing a 506B, they have to be acquainted to be able to invest with that. You know, this is a common question everybody talks. Can you just talk a little bit about that? What is that? You have to know friends and family. And how does that work? That satisfied the 506B type of syndication?
Yeah, so just really, really high level. You know, when you're in this business of selling securities, you either have to register your syndication with the SEC or find an exemption, or it's illegal, as I like to joke. So register, find an exemption, it's illegal. We don't do anything illegal. We don't want to register. So we're always looking for an exemption. And the one you mentioned, 506B, is hands down the most popular one, because you are allowed to bring in some folks that are not high net worth individual, people who are not accredited, is the word you use, which is anybody who has less than $1 million in net worth, excluding their primary residence, or maybe earns $200,000 or less. So that allows you to bring in non-accredited investors, a limited number, 35. But a lot of people get started, you know, obviously they have their Uncle Bob or their Aunt Karen. Somebody's inevitably a buddy down the street. They're inevitably not high net worth. And so they want to bring them into the deal. And so that's why 506B is hands down the most popular exemption out there. So the good news is you can bring in non-accredited investors, people that don't have a high net worth. The bad news is you are limited to people that you already have, generally speaking, a pre-existing relationship with, a substantive relationship with. So you can't go advertise. That's the thing. There's no advertising. There's no general solicitation. There's no going on. I couldn't go on this podcast and say, oh, by the way, guys, I've got a deal. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow. Come join me. I couldn't do that on a 506B.
Click in the link down below.
Click on the link down below. I couldn't do that. I could do that with other exemptions, but not with a B. Generally speaking, again, and no, by the way, no social media, which is one that everybody likes to violate. Your website needs to be clean because your website's public. So you generally have to have a pre-existing substantive relationship, meaning you know the person well enough, you've talked to them, or you've just known them for years, that you believe that this person really is a sophisticated investor. It's somebody who knows how to evaluate risks and merits of a particular investment. And that's really your job, is to make sure that the person you're going to be taking money with understands the risk and they're sophisticated. So by doing that, you create this sort of substantive relationship. And as long as you have a pre-existing substantive relationship, generally speaking, you're not considered to be advertising or generally soliciting. So that's why it gets a little tricky there. But the idea behind 506B is simply it's a private offering. It's between you and your sphere. It's not for you to go advertise and go on social or talk to people you've never met before.
But what about a scenario that, for example, let's say I have 1,000 friends on my Facebook, and they are private. They're not necessarily friends, but there's people that are called friends on Facebook, right? And they know of me. And if I post something privately to my following on Facebook, is that a violation of 506B?
Yes. I mean, most Facebook accounts are public anyway. So there's very few that are private, because people are putting out content like that. They want to have that. If it truly is private, then the only way that would work is for you to establish that pre-existing relationship as a sort of a precondition to them coming into your world. That way you could say, look, all these 1,000 people I have in my world, I have a pre-existing relationship with. Then you could certainly post something like that. But if you don't really know them and you just met somebody at a conference and they're like, oh, let's be friends, and you become friends, you clearly do not know them. And you've got to go through these steps. There's about 8 steps that you generally have to go through that's generally recognized to take somebody that you just met at a conference, or you just, you know, that just maybe you met at a webinar or some social thing, and establish that substantive relationship.
Absolutely. And by the way, guys, Maurício has a lot of content online and to educating those topics that, you know, I'm sure this is one of the common questions that people ask you, right?
Yeah, I mean,
especially the syndicators, probably like, is this legal? Is this not legal?
And I love it. I love answering those questions. Like, I've gotten to the point, like I've been doing this for, what has this been, like 25 years now. And so I kind of have all the information in my head. So it's not a question of, do I know the answer or do I not?
Of course.
Which helps me when I'm counseling, because then I can be creative and I can say, well, maybe we can do it this way. Maybe we can do it that way. But I just rarely, again, I've just got that bag of knowledge. I rarely get stumped. And so I just enjoy it because people are just firing questions and I'm able to give the answers, which is why it's just so much fun for me. So
how do you see now, obviously the time that we are this recording right now, there's a few syndicators a little bit in trouble or, not necessarily. So have SEC already got in, after the deal fall apart, probably some pissed off investors. Does SEC now start getting more tighter?
I don't know if they'll get tighter about what will happen. But it's most likely state regulators that'll get more involved. The SEC is the federal government, the federal agency, and they're looking for bigger fish, people who are doing.
So they're not going back and being like, oh, let's investigate how this was formed and stuff like that because the deal fall apart. For example.
Because the deal fell apart. Now, what usually has to happen is obviously you're going to need some disgruntled investors, which there are a lot because a lot of investors have lost all their money. So there's two routes for an investor when they lose all their money. They can go hire an attorney and basically bring a private lawsuit for the recovery of that. Yeah. Or they can pick up the phone and call the SEC and complain to the SEC, or pick up the phone and call.
And they'll answer.
And so then it depends on, does the SEC do anything? Again, most of the time the SEC, they've just got bigger fish to fry. And so usually it's your state regulator that is a little bit more interested in stuff. So if you live in, we're here in Texas, obviously. So if I have an issue and I live in Texas, I would call the Texas Department of Corporations and make a complaint, and they'll most likely open up an audit and they'll do a deep dive. And it really does depend, because I have been on the receiving ends of some of these letters. It really depends on whether you did, do it properly in terms of using an attorney. Because in my experience, the regulator will send you a letter and say, hey, there's been an issue. Send me all the documents and all this stuff. And I literally will respond by showing them the 150 to 200 page document that we prepared for the client, along with all the signature pages with the business plan and all the documents. They can clearly see that they at least try to do it properly. They didn't try it, because other people, when they ask for these documents, they don't have anything. It's like, oh, here's my 2-page business plan or whatever. And that's all they have. And that's where they really get excited, because they know they haven't done anything. So when you send them 200 pages of legal docs from a reputable attorney, most of the time they're going to try and find some low-hanging fruit. I'm not saying that that's it automatic, but at least in the past, that's what's happened to us. We've responded and nothing's happened. But that's what happens. It's when investors complain, and a lot of it's just making its way through the process. So right now, people have gone into foreclosure. A lot of properties have been lost. A lot of investors have been hurt, and a lot of them are pissed off. The question now is, are they calling the regulators? Are they calling lawyers? What's going on? And then the next step, you'll probably see some enforcement action.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's kind of covered as well for the PPMs, right? Because from my experience, I have some people that invest for the first time in those private placements, right? And it's just like, they read the PPM document, it's like, oh my God. Yeah. But it's kind of like, if you go to eye surgery too, there's like, you could die from this. This is a very vague decision. You don't need LASIK or whatever. You might lose your vision.
I love that you brought that up, because I bring this analogy all the time. I actually use my teeth, because I have terrible teeth. I've had oral surgery like at least a dozen times. And every time I go in, even though they put me under for 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes, they give you that medical consent form, right? It's like, here are all the things that could go wrong when we take out your wisdom teeth. You could get an infection, you can get some bleeding, you could die from this thing. And then you sign it, you review it, you sign it, the doctor signs it, and boom, you do the surgery. It's the same thing with the PPM. You put all the ways your deal can go wrong, all the scary scenarios, and as long as they go in it, understanding what the risks are, and they sign it. So when you're doing a syndication, there's really two different pieces to it. One is the actual selling of the security, which happens at the point of sale. Like, did you give the investor all the proper disclosures? And then once you actually acquire the asset, then it's an operation. Now you're an operator, and you have a fiduciary responsibility, a fiduciary duty to your investors. You have to act as a reasonable, prudent syndicator would under the circumstances. So I think a lot of the times when people lose the property to foreclosure, whatever, it isn't necessarily going to be an issue with a violation of securities laws. It's just going to be a violation that you just didn't do a very good job. Right. Like if you had a competent, whatever the standard is for the syndicators, this is where that was, and you fell below that standard because you didn't get a rate cap, for example, or you waited too long to do something.
Right.
That's more of a private action. So remember, the securities laws would be something where you fail to disclose something in your documentation,
Right.
which
Like a fraud,
which
or
is a little bit difficult because we put everything in there. So it's very difficult to come up with a scenario where there's not some kind of language, even if it's boilerplate, where it said, yeah, we told you that this could happen, that interest rates could go up, and we'd have a hard time covering our debt service.
And in the same thing, we have the investors that are going to really just look into details, and some of them just like signing, don't even know what they're
100%.
signing. And that was one of the facts that there was a lot of those friends and family that really see what we're doing. It's like, hey, I want to invest to it, and they have no idea. So we created this course just to educate us. Like, this is where you get into it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel they go a little bit, if not us, thank God all of our deals are performing. But I have all the friends, even investors, they invested passively, it's not doing so well. But it goes one of those things, right? What did go wrong? Is that because the deal didn't perform? Is because you didn't manage correctly?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm actually calling around because I know what people were doing, for example, back in 2020 in terms of getting rate caps, right? It's like but some people got rate. The question I have is, was that enough rate cap in terms of 2 basis point over the loan? Was that enough? And then they got 2 or 3 year loans. Was that enough? So I'm calling the folks that I have a lot of respect for and say, look, looking back, obviously hindsight's 2020. Would somebody that did that, would you call that reasonable? Was that unreasonable?
Right.
And if the standard is, look, that's the standard. You usually got a 2 percentage point rate cap, and that's what you got. Then you haven't done anything wrong, right?
Exactly.
So you got to remember there's a standard of care that you have, and in order for you to be liable for something, you have to fall below that standard of care.
Right.
And just because you lost money doesn't, by definition, mean
absolutely.
Which is, by the way, one of my big things about securities laws is that if you don't follow the securities laws, it is possible to lose money for investors, no fault of your own. Like there's whatever happened. Like maybe even 2008 could be a good example. You didn't do anything wrong. But because you didn't have your security stuff handled, they're going to get you on that. Right. It's almost like the Al Capone thing where, they couldn't get him on whatever murder charges, so they get him on a thing. Or my license plate. I always tell the story of my license plate. When I bought my Mercedes, it didn't have a front license plate.
Yeah.
I never get pulled over for not having a front license. In California, you're supposed to have a front license plate. I never get pulled over for the front license plate. But if I get a parking ticket, they're going to tack that on for not having the thing. Tinted windows is another one. Like they're not going to pull me over because I have tinted windows. But if they pull me over for a ticket, they're going to say, "Hey, oh, by the way, you don't have the tinted window. You have tinted windows."
I hate front license plates, dude.
I hate them too.
I yank them all of my cars. I would not move to California just because of that. I'm just kidding. I just hate them. But talk to me about your book, man.
Yeah, super pumped. It's called Legal Strategies for Everyone. So my buddy,
put it right here on the
my
table.
buddy Ken McElroy, who is probably best known for being one of the Rich Dad Robert Kiyosaki advisors, he asked me to write the book. He's writing one himself. It's a strategy series. So mine's called Legal Strategies for Everyone. Kenny's is going to be called Real Estate Strategies for Everyone, and then CPA Eric is Tax Strategies for Everyone. So it's kind of a strategies thing, and it's really a high level. It's not a syndication book. I mean, there is a chapter on raising capital and OPM. But it really is about just sort of basic legal principles. A lot of it is asset protection, which obviously applies to a lot of everybody who has real estate. I talk about sort of the 6 layers of asset protection, and I talk about insurance, I talk about privacy, I talk about estate planning, the importance of having a will and a trust.
That's
which a lot
great,
of people
man.
don't.
Because
So it's just kind of high level, how not to waste money on lawyers, be prepared. Don't throw your money away with lawyers, strategies not to do. So it's a kind of a comprehensive book, but it's a very high level. And as you know, Neander, I'm one of my gifts or one of my sort of superpowers is to be able to take sort of complex matters and make them easy to understand.
That's awesome,
so that's
man.
what I did in this
I'm
book. I think
proof of that. 100%.
It's written in plain English. My buddy Tom Wheelwright likes to say I'm one of the few lawyers that actually speaks English. So that's what I did. That's what I did with the book. I just wrote it in plain English for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we often talked about wealth building, or about wealth preserving, right? We often don't talk about things about that, or what if I pass, or what happened to my kids, and trust like that. We're in the process to initiate something like that. So I would love to pick your brain on that, man, to kind of how to form all this stuff about all of our business and stuff. And, the 2 things you got to have is a friend doctor, a friend lawyer, and a CPA.
That's right. That'll cover it for sure.
That's awesome, dude. So talk to me quick. What is your 5-year goals on your business now? Where do you see the 5-year trajectory?
We're moving to, so we're now a multi 7-figure business, and my goal is to get it to 8. So I'm kind of acting as, I'm taking back the reins. I left for a little bit and gave the reins of the CEO for a little bit. Now I'm back, and the goal here is to get to that 8-figure business,
That's awesome,
8-figure, which is a a completely different model, because you can get to $1 million in revenue just on pure grit and sweat and whatever on your own. Then you can probably get to 2 or 3 million just by delegating and having a good team members. But to get to 8 million, you really have to grow through people. So it really is more about leadership and training, finding the right people, but also training them so they can go do what they need to do and hire their people and delegate their people. And so it's just a different skill set. And I'm not there yet. So that's the personal development part. I'm on that journey right now and trying to figure out, who do I need to become? What kind of a leader do I need to become? What are the books that I need to read? What are the mentors that I need? What are the podcasts I listen to? And the skills that I need to develop to train my people, be a good leader, so we can get to the 8 figures here in the next 5 years.
100%, man. It was such something that being the CEO, right? It's a tough.
Yeah,
it is. A lot of people don't talk about it. And then I started doing real estate and it's the syndication type, and then people are like, "Oh, why are you learning now to buy more apartments?" I say, "No, I'm learning how to be a CEO for my companies."
Yeah.
Because of the CEO, you have to inspire, you have to be the leader, you have to be the therapist sometimes, you have to put decisions, pivot, and everything that comes that people cannot resolve ultimately is going to come to you, right? It's kind of a shitty job if you think about it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why everybody wants to sort of unload it, and everybody's like, oh, let me just hire that position away, but it really can't be. I mean, you've got to really grow, and eventually you'll get to the point where you can lead, and that's really what I'm focused on, because I do believe once to get to 8 figures or 9 figures, you have to just be a really good leader and be able to teach like most people spend most of their time teaching others, right? Their clients or whatever, and they don't really take the time to teach their own team, right? But that's how you get to the next level, is to coach your team, to train them, to show them the way, and really realize what their visions are. I mean, it's a good practice to know the vision of all your other employees, and make sure that their dreams come true,
see
and
the
help
growth
them.
and that's awesome, man. I'm very, very, like I said, a fan of you, man, and I would love to see more of your content and stuff. There's going to be information down here, a link to go to his social media, to his LinkedIn, and contact information, his website. This is a guy that we actually use for a couple of our deals ourselves. So, man, we're so pleased to do business with you. But this is the part of the show that we're going to ask you a couple questions, man.
I didn't know about this.
The first question is here. Now that you had your best coffee of your life, are you going to keep adding sugar? Yes or no?
Not for coffee like that. Absolutely not. In fact, I think if I added sugar to that one, it would have been really ridiculously sweet. It would have hidden all the great flavors and tones it had.
All right. Mediation or negotiation?
Mediation.
Okay. Prosecution or defense?
Defense.
If you were in a syndicate, what would you do? A 506B or 506C? What would be your preference?
506C.
Of course, you're an influencer.
That's right.
Hey, flip or hold in real estate?
Hold, 100%. You collect real estate. Don't buy and sell. Collect it. Be a collector of real estate.
Collector. All right. Traditional financing or private funding?
Creative finance, maybe more private. Let's use the word creative finance.
Creative finance. Twig it.
Yeah.
High risk and high returns investments or low risk and steady income properties?
Both.
Let's talk about properties.
Both, because you want some conservative steady for your your baseline, and then after that, swing for the fences.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
What kind of investor are you?
Huh?
What kind of investor are you? The risk taker?
I'm a risk taker. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm a poker player.
Let's go. Let's go. And the final question. This is a tricky one. California or Texas?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm a what's the word? Unapologetic lover of California. I live in California. It's a pain in the ass to live in. But I cannot love California more. The actual people that live there, and the beaches and the topography. Yes, it's an environment that's very difficult to do business, but you just can't look. I showed up here, it was raining. I was
Texas,
I was at the beach yesterday with 75-degree weather. I show up here, it's raining.
Look, next year you gotta do. You come back to the show, and we're gonna give you hats and boots, my friend.
Dude, next year you're gonna come to my studio and you do a podcast in my studio.
Let's go. Italo, you had a question.
I got one question for you. One question. I just remember you said we were in England for a long time, right? So tea time or coffee time?
coffee time. I'm not a tea guy. My sister's a big tea gal, but no, coffee for sure. I like coffee. Especially now that I've tasted the good stuff. But yeah, I'm a coffee guy, not a tea guy.
That completes the spiel of the beans with Maurício. Bro, this has been awesome, man. This has been great. But this is part of the session that I want you to look at camera 3, man. If you can speak to your younger self, give it an advice. What would you have to say?
Well, I've been joking lately. If I could talk to my younger advice, I'd just tell him to buy Bitcoin as soon as it came out. I know, that's really what you want to hear, right?
Especially this couple weeks. Right?
But obviously that's a joke. But if that really was going on, I would tell myself to go buy Bitcoin at $100. No, I love real estate, as we all do, and so my biggest advice to my younger self would be to don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and then wait, because it's just the best wealth building strategy of all. And I would also tell my younger self that when you do get that invitation to the Cook Islands to go to that wedding, go, because that's where I met my wife. So I almost didn't go, but definitely go to that invitation.
Let's go. Mauricio, thank you so much for coming to the show, man. This has been great. It's what I like is like when we initiated, we talked just about your life, man, about you, you know what I mean, where you're coming from and your vision to your business. And congratulations on the book.
Appreciate it.
And here's going to be a link also for his book. It's I actually want to read one myself, my brother.
That's your copy, my friend.
And thank you so much. I don't know how much a reader, but I read a couple books a year. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. It's just because I'm from Brazil, man. English is my second language. So it takes me a while. Or I can have Delia read it to me, a night story, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I wish you the best on your business and stuff, man. I appreciate you coming here to the show.
Thank you for having me. I can't believe I'm the inaugural of season 2. I'm honored to do that. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We can't wait to be in your show, man. Let's go.
Can't wait for you to have me.
Thank you so much, guys. This is The Real Grind. Let's go.
And as always, thank you so much for watching The Real Grind. This episode was sponsored by ELS. If you're looking for high quality products, if you're looking for affordability, look no further. Go check out ELS website and take your remodeling to the next level. EmpireLivingSolutions.com. Again, EmpireLivingSolutions.com. That's where you're gonna find amazing products just like this one for you. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. All the social medias, we're there. Your favorite podcast platforms, we're there. This is just the first episode of season 2. We're excited. Stick around because this is the real grind. Let's go.
Waking up to success, now we getting it started. This is the real grind. Everything you've been wanting, building an empire, no question. Talking about real estate, investing, making the millions, no stopping. While we sip on gourmet coffee, the real grind.